Hello?
Hello, Kirsty MacColl?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Steve Harris.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. I guess I finally caught up with you.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about the flub yesterday. The interviewer neglected to give me your phone number.
Oh, no.
So I was sitting by the phone for an hour yesterday, waiting for somebody to call.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so anyway, 24-hour delay, but here we are.
Oh, well, here we are. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so sorry about the whole thing, and
Don't worry.
I am basically an interpreter, and I've been provided with a list of questions here.
Okay.
So if there are any inconsistencies, I apologize.
Okay.
Now this great...
Just hold on. Let me just turn the TV down a minute. Hold on.
Sure.
Oh. That's it. Right, I'm all yours.
Okay. This is I guess a greatest hits album or a best of Kirsty MacColl album that just released. How exactly did this happen? What sort of circumstances leaded up to this release?
Well, it was basically I got a chance to be in charge of it, because normally once you had things released, you don't really own the rights anymore, and the record companies can do what they like. But because I've been with a lot of different labels, Virgin in England offered to license a lot of the old tracks that were on different labels onto this one project. But basically, I got to choose all the tracks that went on it, and it seemed a good time to do it, because it was sort of marking 15 years worth of my work.
Oh, I see. What exactly is the mark there? I mean, what was your first single or first song?
The first single I had out was called "They Don't Know."
Oh, the one that Tracy Ullman eventually.
Yeah, and I had that out in '79.
Mm-hmm.
And then I recorded a couple of new songs for this album as well. There's a song called Caroline, which is a new song. And also I did a duet with Evan Dando and the Lemonheads on Perfect Day, which is a Lou Reed song. Mm-hmm. And those two are new tracks for it.
Uh-huh. I see. The interviewer was wondering, after 15 years, I guess this gives you a chance to sort of look back over your career. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think the songs stand up pretty well, because I was never incredibly, I never belonged to a particular kind of fashion. It wasn't like, oh yes, I was a new romantic or something. Do you know what I mean? I think because I didn't really jump on any bandwagons, that there's a sort of consistency of quality of songwriting, and I don't think it sounds too dated, even the early stuff. Yeah. But also, it was a good chance, because a lot of this album will hopefully introduce more people to my work, because some people know me for odd things. They might know me for the single that I did with the Pogues, or from Walking Down Madison in America. They know that track better, and a lot of the early stuff was never released anywhere else except England, so it gave people a chance to get hold of that.
Yes, it's funny you mentioned that, the fact that you never really belonged to any sort of movement, because he mentions here that listening to the collection, the word that comes to mind is like integrity or sincerity.
Well, I'm glad he noticed. It's very eclectic musically, but that's because I like to explore different styles. I mean, it's just I tend to choose the style of music after the main body of the song is written. After I've written the lyrics and the melody, it's usually down to the nature of the song. That dictates what sort of musical style I use for it.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I guess your choice of style is not for the novelty of the style as much as for the substance of the style.
Yeah, exactly. And I like experimenting, and I like trying out different things. And I don't want to make the same record for 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Which I think a lot of people seem to do.
And he was a little bit surprised at the success of this, commercial success, that is. I guess you debuted at 13 on the UK charts, and
no, it debuted at 6.
Okay, it debuted at 6.
And then it went to 11, and now it's number 10.
I see.
So it's gone up again.
Now, is this a degree of commercial success you had expected, or did this hit you?
Well, I was hoping, but I mean, you never know, really. And I've had a lot of bad luck with record companies before, and sometimes, it doesn't matter how hard you work on a project, if they don't promote it, then it doesn't get the light, it doesn't see the light of day, really. And that's happened to me before, so I was very pleased that that the record company were enthusiastic and, trying to push it.
Here's one of those sort of awkward questions, because I guess it asks that you analyze your own talents or your own allure, as it were. Because in the album, I guess there are various praises sung by people like Johnny Marr and David Byrne and Billy Bragg, Shane McGowan, etc. about you. What exactly do they find appealing about a Kirsty MacColl?
Well, I don't know if they all find the same things appealing, but presumably most of them like my voice because they've asked me to sing on their records.
Mm-hmm.
I think, really, with my voice, I mean, the thing that I'm pleased about is that it's fairly unique. I don't think anybody else sounds like me. And obviously some people can't stand it for that reason, and other people think it's good, but those particular people all seem to like it. That's quite flattering, really, I suppose.
It's a pretty stellar lineup, though. I guess are there more out there that we should know about who have not exactly lent their voice to this particular album? I mean, there's also Morrissey and Bono as well, I'm given to understand.
Yeah, but they're all on the sleeve notes. I mean, do they have those in Japan?
I guess so, yeah. Well, he mentioned these names here. So.
Yeah.
But are there other artists that have shown a desire to work with you?
Well, I've worked with lots and lots of different people, but I mean, the list is a bit... it's probably easier to get a biog if you want from my management company. Because I can't even remember half the people I work with.
But can you find like a consistent thread throughout the artists who have wanted to work with you? Do they all share something in common, you think, or they all come from...
Well, no, the ones that I've actually ended up working with have all been people that I admire, I mean, it's a mutual thing. I mean, I was a big Smiths fan before I was asked to sing on any Smiths records, and then I got a card from Morrissey and got to meet him and Johnny, and they asked me to sing on a couple of things they did. And, it was obviously, it's a thrill because I was a big fan, but, I mean, I've been lucky with the people who've kind of shown an interest in working with me, so it was good,
Well, that's a rather fortunate coincidence that you mentioned that, because the interviewer thought that was one of the best things you ever did, the work with Johnny Marr, he says here.
Oh, right. Well, I've also, I've written a lot of stuff over the last sort of 3 albums. I've written quite a bit with Johnny, but, I originally sort of sang on the Smith stuff, and then I sang on some Morrissey stuff, and so I've known them for quite a long time, and we're friends,
Just out of curiosity, you know what Johnny Marr is up to right now?
I'm not 100% sure. I spoke to him a couple of months ago, but I'm writing a track with him, so we might do some more stuff together.
So he's still plugging along then in his own
way.
way.
Yeah.
The interviewer here says that I guess you have sort of turned your back on the idea of being a pop star or crass materialism in pop music.
Well, I don't know. I'm sort of caught. I mean, it's hard really because I love making records and I love writing songs and I love working with musicians. But I do find that the business end of the music business rather, depressing really. Because so much of the music business is controlled by people who have absolutely no interest in music, as far as I can tell. But, and they all seem to make more money out of it than any of the musicians, But, I have to... If you want to keep making records, then you have to sort of go out and promote them, and that means doing all the stuff that, that I don't enjoy quite as much, I suppose. But I like doing shows.
Your father is quite a well-known figure in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he was a very famous songwriter and folk singer.
Do you think that his approach toward the music had any sort of lasting effect on your own approach to it?
Well, he was very anti-pop music. He really had no time for it at all, and didn't approve, really, and was very disappointed when all his children wanted to become pop singers. And but he did actually. I had an album out called Kite in '89, which he actually liked, and that was quite a breakthrough, really, because I don't think he'd really been that pleased about any of us pursuing the sort of music that we were pursuing, But then he actually said he liked that album, so I was quite amazed.
Do you think that in any way he's sort of been subconsciously a submodel or a role model to you?
I don't know really. I mean, I mean, when I was younger, I was very sort of angry about it because I didn't grow up with him, and we had I wasn't a very sort of particularly happy child or anything. But I think now that I'm older, I mean, he died a few years ago, and I think when you get older, you kind of you get a bit more forgiving and a bit more understanding about why people are like they are,
This is one of these.
I mean, I did consciously avoid folk music for a long time just because I associated it with, my childhood, really.
I guess kids can't help but, for at least a period of time resenting what their parents represented or what their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of those very abstract kind of questions about you and your life in the 80s. This interviewer here seems to think the 80s were about idolatry and the efficient production of pop music, whereas obviously that's at odds with what you're about. How would you characterize your life and your lifestyle throughout the 80s?
Well, God, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, we sort of, I guess, have established the fact that you turned your back on the idea of.
Well, I didn't. I mean, I still, like making records and everything, but there are certain things I won't do in order to sell them, and I don't want to sort of completely prostitute myself in order to be able to make a record, and that means there are certain papers I won't talk to, certainly in England, and I tried. I mean, I tended to avoid a lot of the sort of things that celebrities go to because I didn't really, I couldn't see the point. I didn't, there's always these, like, they tend to go to lots of charity dinners where everybody pays huge amounts of money and then goes out and buys a dress or a suit that costs a huge amount of money, and then they sort of clap each other on the back for having given a few bucks to some charity, and it just seems like completely, hypocritical to me, I think, really.
Was there a time when you felt like you had to play the game, though, when you sort of started to regret your own commitment to say your own principles, your own.
Well, I think when I started out, I mean, I was very young. I was 19 when I had my first record out, and I was tended to be much more easily pushed around then. Although musically, I was always quite certain about how I wanted things to sound, and what I wanted the records to sound like. But as far as everything else went, I had no experience outside that. So, they would sort of say, oh, why don't you go and, wear a certain dress and go and do this TV show and things. And I'd think, oh, maybe I have to. And then I'd think, what the hell am I wearing this for? I wouldn't be seen dead in this. It's like, why am I doing this? And why am I spending all my time in Germany doing television shows? It's just not, it doesn't interest me. It's not got anything to do with music, really.
But did there ever come a time when you thought, commercially, there are just certain things you have to do in order to sustain your career?
Yeah, but I think you can be selective about them. I mean, if you just say, no, I'm not going to do anything, then, then they've got no reason to kind of bother with you. But if you say, look, I'll work really hard, I'll do the shows, and I'll do a certain amount of press, and I'll do a certain amount of whatever promotional stuff. But then from there on, my life is my own, my private life's my own, and that's a separate thing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think were your main motivations? So what kept you going? Was it just the love of the music, or was it the idea that other artists were supporting you, or that you had a very strong fan base?
Well, it was a combination of things, really. I think it was partly because I really can't imagine not doing music. I mean, I love it so much. I couldn't imagine sort of doing something else, really. And also a certain amount of bloody-mindedness, really, because every time I had a problem with the record companies and they were kind of being totally unsupportive or whatever, it would make me sort of depressed for a little while, and then I'd sort of think, right, I'll show you, and it would sort of spur me on just out of pure bloody-mindedness to show them that I could be right,
Is that an attitude you still carry, or have you kind of gotten past that stage?
Well, I'm more relaxed about it now. I try and get less uptight about things that I don't sort of necessarily agree with, but I still, as long as I get to make the records I want to make, then that's my main objective, and then you have to do what you can to ensure that happens. But everything else is kind of not as important as that,
Well, I guess in light of what you just said, that the success of this compilation has been sort of sweet vindication for you then.
Well, it's nice, it's good to know that there is a fan base and that people were looking to buy stuff, because I had an album out in '93 in England, and it was a company put it out that they signed it up when I'd already finished it, and it had been out in America for about 3 months by the time they signed it up. And then they didn't promote it at all. They didn't do anything with it. They didn't put a single out. It was like a complete waste of time, really. So, but, it's nice when your records actually get a chance to get heard. That's the main thing.
How about this way of looking at it? Could it be that the times have sort of caught up with you, that you've sort of had a chance to prove yourself, to have things your way for a long time now, and people are starting to say, well, okay, I guess she's paid her dues, and now let's just accept her on her own terms.
Well, maybe, and also, there are more women around now who are less kind of, I don't know, I think it was very, when I started out, it was so ridiculously male-dominated, the music business. As far as all the record company executives went, there weren't any women in important jobs at record companies. And that has changed to a certain extent, and therefore, the attitude has slightly changed. It's still very male-dominated, but they did tend to prefer women. If they had a female artist, they wanted to be able to treat them like a Barbie doll, basically, and and dress them up and put them in. It's like they didn't want them to have much to do with their own records, really. They just wanted someone to front it, who looked right. And I think that's slightly changed now. You've got a lot more interesting sort of female artists around now. So I'm not sort of the only one who's trying to do it my way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that mainly a UK thing, or do you think it sort of cuts across borders?
Well, I don't know. I think it cuts across. I don't know too much about what's happening in Europe and stuff, but I suppose in America and the UK certainly there are more. Bjork has done very well, and it would have been interesting to see how a male record company executive would have dealt with someone who's as individual as she is. 15 years ago, they wouldn't have known what to do with it.
Surely, from the perspective of quality, do you think there are more interesting female performers now?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Does gender matter to you at all?
Well, I don't. A lot of people think my songs are automatically about men, which I find quite a strange attitude, because it's like, I don't write specifically about men. You know what I mean? They're not all about men, and for me, I try to make them sort of as ambiguous as possible about gender-wise, because there are a lot of, people experience a lot of the same emotions. It's not like all men are horrible and all women are sort of put upon, That's not the way it is. And I try to sort of reflect a kind of reasonable balance in there, I think.
Looking at the younger artists now, do you think they're faced with the same sort of decisions you were faced with, or are people more street smart now? Has the music business advanced to the point now where people no longer have to sort of play games and compromise their art?
No, I think they all end up compromising it, really. Most of them do.
How would you counsel somebody to stick to their morals, to their integrity?
Well, I think they try and stick to it, but I think eventually, even if it's just with a choice of what single comes out, if you've made an album and you're proud of all the songs on it, you shouldn't have any songs on there that you don't want released, basically. So, you shouldn't be putting yourself in a position where they can pick one that you don't like to put out as a single, really. And, there are ways of sort of avoiding certain tracks, but it's trial and error, really, and a lot of it depends on luck and whatever.
Can you think of younger artists who are succeeding in doing it their way, who are able to command your respect simply because of their approach to things?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I haven't really listened to much rock music for the last 6 months. I've been listening to jazz and Latin stuff, and very little stuff in the English language at all. Have I listened to in the last 6 months or a year. But I thought Beck was interesting. I liked his album Mellow Gold.
What exactly has happened to you that would inspire you to want to listen to jazz and Latin music?
Well, I've always done that. I mean, especially when I'm trying to write my own stuff, I find it very hard to listen to other rock music. I don't want to sort of lose concentration, and I find it easier to listen to something that's completely different to what I'm doing. So I'd rather listen to something African or something sung in Spanish or whatever. I just think that because it's like I'm working with rock music all day long, and I don't necessarily want to hear it all night as well. I'd rather hear something different.
This is one of those don't blame me, I'm just the interpreter questions. What to you is innocence? What does innocence mean to you?
Well, innocence is being it's about being innocent, about being naive, about the ways of the world, I suppose.
Maybe not being pretentious.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're innocent, you're probably not pretentious, and you're probably quite, what's the word? Oh, you know what innocence means. I mean, I don't really... Look it up in a dictionary.
Maybe he asked this because he finds a certain that quality in your style and your music, your presentation, a certain innocence. Has that ever been a word directed at you before? Or?
No, I've got a song called Innocence.
Ah, okay.
Do you think that's what he's talking about?
I think that may be what he's talking about. Is it a value that you...
Well, that's a song about someone who's become completely degenerate because, they've just lost everything that would any kind of moral ground that anybody else would have held dear,
So it's an indictment of that person.
Well, it's not. It's a bit it's like sympathetic. It's not a complete indictment. It's just a bit. It's sad for the person who's watching them going downhill.
Okay. And he notes that in your music, you, I guess, talk about little stories, anecdotes about, like I say, humorous episodes in life or episodes of joy, sadness, pain. I guess you're trying to portray just real life through your lyrics.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just tell it how I see it. The thing is, I think there were so many songs written by men for women to sing. When I was growing up, listening to the radio, there were so many songs where, like 90% of the time, it was a woman singing, "Ooh, baby, I can't live without you," and that to me is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, loads of women, support their families and get on with life and have to manage without a man, and to constantly portray them as these poor, pathetic victims is to deny their strength and their resilience. And most of the women I know are very strong and resilient and intelligent people, and they don't lay down and die when the relationship falls apart, And the songs didn't seem to reflect real women, or real people. They just seemed to be some sort of chocolate box fantasy of what relationships are about, and so I think that you can see romance in real life. I don't think you have to sort of turn it into some kind of airbrushed commercial version. I think the real thing is just as romantic, warts and all.
Yeah. So you want to capture the realism of life and all of its glory and embarrassment as well, huh?
Exactly.
I guess you said before something to the effect that you didn't want to have to play two different roles, the role of the pop star and then the role of a mother at home. I'm not exactly sure of the particular line you said.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, I do have those two roles. I mean, they're not. I mean, singing is it's my job and everything, but I don't go home and expect everyone to wait on me hand and foot because I'd be waiting a long time.
Well, he was wondering that I guess you're married to Steve Lillywhite and you have 2 children, and he was wondering what your life at home is like.
Well, we're separated, it's difficult to be away from the kids, like when I'm on tour, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be separated for a month at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But they're pretty good, and they understand that, you know, that's my job, and we spend as much time together as we can. And when I'm home, I tend to be home more than most working parents, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Uh-huh.
so it balances out, really.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, you, as you mentioned a little while ago, you have a duet with Evan Dando on this record. The interviewer was wondering how exactly that collaboration came about.
Well, I met Evan a couple of years ago, and we were friends, and he used to phone us whenever he came to London, and then we'd run into him. We ran into him in Australia as well one time, and we'd sort of thought, you know, talked about possibly doing something together at some point, but we'd never made any firm plans. And when I was recording, when I wanted to do the new tracks for this album, I thought that Perfect Day would be a really good song to do as a duet. And as far as I knew, it hadn't been done like that. And I thought he'd be the ideal person to sing it with me, but I didn't have any idea of how to get hold of him because he travels all the time, and you know, he's very elusive. And so I thought what I'd do was I'd just go ahead and record the backing track and then hope that he would, you know, turn up or that I could get hold of him. And literally 2 days after I recorded it, he phoned up and said he was coming to London to do a show. And so I said, well, would you, do you fancy singing this with me? And I've already done it and it's in A. And he said, yes, fine, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So that was, it was fate, I suppose.
The interviewer was wondering about him in particular because he seems a bit different from the other artists you've collaborated with thus far. He, I guess, sort of notes tongue-in-cheek here that he seems more an artist who's more familiar with, say, sex and drugs than the other people you've worked with.
Oh, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how that got in there, but yeah, that's what he.
What? Doesn't he think Shane McGowan's used to sex and drugs?
I guess that's a good point. And he notes that Perfect Day seems to be almost a follow-up to Fairy Tale of New York.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that really.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Evan is that different from the other people I've worked with. I mean, basically, he's a really good songwriter. And I really like his voice, and I think it works very well on that track. But I think he gets a lot of bad publicity, and I don't really understand why.
Uh-huh.
I think people don't give him enough credit for his talent, really.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's because he's good looking. People tend to kind of dismiss people who are good looking.
Uh-huh. Now, does what the actual song "Perfect Day" is what? Is the theme of that song? Does the theme of that song resonate to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever cover a song that I didn't relate to because you have to feel it's like part of your own set,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the songs that I have covered have generally put my stamp on them. And that's what I've tried to do. Is I don't think when you listen to the album and you get to one of the covers, you don't suddenly think, "Oh, look, she didn't write this." Doesn't sound anything like the others. I think it's I choose those particular songs because they mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. So are you constantly on the lookout for covers, or do these?
No, I mean, there's so many songs that are brilliant, which I could do tomorrow. But I think really my main object is to write my own for the most part. It's just that I haven't done that many covers, but the ones I have done have been quite successful. So they're sort of quite well known, so people think I've done more than I have, really.
But your songs, have they been covered very much? We talked about the sort of Tracy Ullman.
Well, it's funny you should ask, because actually the Lemonheads did a version of one of my songs last year.
Uh-huh.
And, there's been a few covers, but, I thought it was pretty cool when the Lemonheads did it, because, as I say, I like Evan's songwriting, and when somebody who's a good writer covers one of your songs, it's very flattering,
What's been your favorite cover of one of your songs so far?
I don't know. I think I like the Lemonheads version of He's on the Beach. I think that's really funny. But also I like it because they recorded it in Brazil, and I've never been to Brazil, and I just thought it was great to have one of your songs recorded there.
That's a funny way of looking at it. Do you ever squirm when somebody covers one of your...
Well, some of them, it's... I don't know. I mean, it's always I think it's flattering if anybody, even if they don't do a very good version, at least if somebody, thinks it's a really good song and they want to do a version, that's nice, But it does sound funny sometimes when they're translated into other languages because they just don't flow as well, The phrasing doesn't quite fit,
Uh-huh. Now, I guess we're to assume that you're in this business for the long term. You're going to be doing this another 10 or 20 years, right?
Well, looks like it.
What exactly do you have in mind for the time being? Is your approach to the music going to change at all, or are you just going to continue at the same pace?
Well, I'm going to when I get back from this tour, I do a British tour, and then I'm going to start writing in earnest for the next album, the next studio album, and I've got a lot of work to do for that. But then the one after that, there's a possibility that I might do a completely sort of Latin album.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've been I've worked with Latin musicians before, but I've also met a Cuban guy in Havana who I've been writing with, who's very good.
Uh-huh.
So I might pursue that if I get a chance.
Kind of a vague question, but what about Latin music appeals to you? What does it have a natural appeal for you?
I think it's really exciting. I think Spanish is a good language to sing in. It's probably the best language next to English to sing in for popular music. And it's that combination of like the Spanish language and sort of African roots that goes through Latin music, and the amount of brass they use is just exciting enough on its own, I think it'd be great to have a big band like that, Tito Puente or something,
So you're specifically referring to salsa then?
Well, salsa and merengue and lots of other kinds, but it's an area that I find very refreshing, let's say. Maybe it's because I don't understand the lyrics very well. I can't be that cynical about them.
Do your interests extend, say, to Brazil?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I haven't been to South America yet, so I'd like to do that.
Uh-huh. So are you pretty adventurous about what you go out of your way to look for? Do you actually go searching for new kinds of Latin music?
Well, I listen to loads and loads and loads of stuff, and it just sort of, realise after a certain while that you like certain areas particularly well, and I tend to buy anything that's Cuban, really.
Uh-huh. Have you shared your ambitions with your record company yet about this Latin idea? How do they feel about it?
I think they're worried.
They've got a little red check mark next to your name, I guess.
Yeah. Watch her.
Do we renew her option next year?
Exactly.
Do you think that she could sort of stray from the course enough to jeopardize your career at all?
Well, I mean, if I go, if I do something that they don't want to deal with, I'll just go to another label. So, I mean, I'm used to that.
Mm-hmm. And I asked you about your father a few questions back. Do you have any people that you would like to say emulate? Do you have any people who have done it in a certain way that you would like to do it, i.e. your approach to music?
Well, I suppose Neil Young or somebody like that. Really, who's just kept on doing their own thing for years and years and years.
Yeah, a lot of people mention Neil Young. I mean, what exactly is it about him that makes him such a hero?
Because he ain't singing for Pepsi and he ain't singing for Coke,
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's kept his integrity, and I think that's quite hard to do. And to maintain a very long career in this business, it's hard to do both, really.
Uh-huh. Do you think that there would be a lot of pain along the way if you try to do something like that, though? Are there a lot of slings and arrows waiting for the artist to...
Well, probably, but, you've got to do it, haven't you?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and not hate what you see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Kirsty, on that note, I guess I will leave you to your own devices.
All right.
So, thank you very much for your time. Once again, sorry about the flub yesterday.
No problem.
Okay, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.